Hey, everybody. That's right. It's me, your host of Room 9, Sean Cudahy. And this is the introduction to episode 30. I sit down with a good friend, Ted. I don't know, for those who've been kind of listening from the beginning, I sat down and he kind of talked for a few minutes back in the earlier episodes with another guy named Jason, and they were in the process of starting their own recovery podcast, which as of date, I think that fell through and is not happening anymore. But it was awesome to catch up with Ted and actually just have him for a one-on-one for about an hour. It was pretty awesome. Before I let you listen to that, room9podcast.com is waiting for you to fill out a contact form so you can stay up to date with all the happenings here at ye olde Room 9. This weather sucks in Buffalo. It feels like winter and it's June 3rd. It's been kind of annoying, so I don't know if anybody else is frustrated with that. I'm just cranky in general today. Looking forward to the days when I have my own studio to record in at peace and quiet. This upcoming episode, it was just absolutely frustrating, from somebody knocking on the door, somebody upstairs blasting the TV, just constant noise going on. So if you have a quiet, vacant room somewhere where I can do my podcasting, let me know. That'd be awesome. Because it is quite frustrating. So I'm very much looking forward to the growth of Room 9 and one day a studio just for podcasting and me doing work that is completely quiet and peaceful. One day, a guy can dream. Anyway, the other good news, Room 9 is officially Room 9. I went down to the county clerk's office and filed it as an official business, so I am the sole proprietor of Room 9, which is pretty awesome. So it's one step closer to being an official business. So I'm very pumped about that. It's amazing what spending $35 can do for you. So I'm excited about that. If you would like to help support Room 9 and its message, you can go to room9.com/support and you can sign up for Patreon that way, or you can do a one-time donation. Any bit helps, and it keeps this thing alive and it keeps this thing going, and it gets this message out for anybody who is struggling with substance use or knows somebody who is struggling with substance use. So yeah, Ted, episode 30 is coming right up now. We hit on a lot of cool topics, whether it's creativity in sobriety, whether it's family education for the loved ones you have that are struggling with substance use. He shares a little bit about his story and how he was about to be a counselor in his last relapse. So it is pretty awesome to hear him talk and share what he has been through. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Room 9, episode 30. I love you guys. Bye-bye.
Wait a minute. You're Sean Cudahy. That's right. How you gonna know? You're Sean Cudahy. Stop asking fucking questions. That's right. Yeah. You better believe it. Oh, you better believe it. That's right. Come on. You're Sean Cudahy. That's right.
God bless him.
That's right.
So here I am.
That's right.
Here you are, back at Room 9 studio. Definitely some upgrades in equipment. I'm trying to think when we did one. Jesus, I didn't have any of my stuff that I have now.
I mean, your desk was in a different spot.
Yeah, that was over there.
That's all
yeah,
I got. I wasn't paying attention that close.
But, I didn't have the soundboard. I had 2 mic stands and 2 mics, and that was it. And then this little interface and a crappy laptop.
Well, you gotta start somewhere.
So I've upgraded.
Looks good. No, just be glad you're doing it sober.
Yeah, that's right. Well, depending on how many coffees and energy drinks I've had, sober might be questionable.
It's all relative. at this point.
But yeah, so a lot has changed since you have last been here, Ted.
I'm glad to be back.
That is for sure. Yeah, I'm happy to
have
have you here.
A lot has changed for me, too.
Yeah, we're going to have a discussion about that before we hit record. Yeah, we were talking about, because you were taking those recovery coach classes with me.
Right.
Out in Lockport, and the one lady who was running it said something about me using my laptop to take notes and was really questioning it. And I remember I threw the laptop around finally and showed her. And I said she ended up apologizing to me.
She was a good lady. Just
No, she was super awesome.
Yeah,
they were good. Both of them.
Great.
Keith was awesome, and Lori was awesome. Yeah, no, they did great.
But there were some things there that she discussed with a family member of hers that was an interesting strategy. That I as much as I've worked in the field and also had my own experience with recovery, there's a lot out there now that I don't know much about, and the whole psychedelic thing was something new for me, and the different pathways to recovery. Like, I agree with it, but some of them, you're kind of like, all right, well, we're doing harm reduction here, but like
yeah, so let's talk about that, because we might actually have a difference of opinion when it comes to that topic. It depends. So I guess let's start with your back. You have your case set, correct?
I did in Iowa.
Okay, so it was your license in Iowa then.
Mm-hmm.
But
well,
so whatever you've been through.
Case second training was what it was.
Okay,
I ended up relapsing and getting fired before I was able to complete it
to be officially certified. But either way, you have a lot of that experience, and
yeah, I spent a year or more as a counselor there, and had probably 8 to 10 clients at a time, and ran 2 groups a week, or no, I should say two groups a day, and it was a lot of counseling. It really got my feet wet in the counseling field, and it was a great experience. But I did see a lot come across, different cases come across my desk, and I, certainly formed some opinions at that point. Although I wasn't necessarily in recovery myself, I was sober most of the time, but I wasn't really in recovery. I was still somewhat dependent on. I was taking Neurontin. It was like the last medication they didn't quite take me off of when I was done with my rehab experience.
What is Neurontin?
Gabapentin.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was something I didn't really realize I'd get addicted to, but I did. And so I was on and off abusing that throughout my time as a counselor. But it doesn't really affect your cognition as much. But the problem is you can keep, the more you take, and I took a ton of it, it starts to just affect your in general, like your health,
your mood.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you adjust amounts, like because I was mostly self-medicating again. When you adjust the amount, if you go significantly down, like let's say you run out of the med, then it's a hellish experience. Like withdrawing from gabapentin is up there, I would say, with the pain level, like in terms of emotional pain and physical pain. It was pretty close to benzos for
really
me. Yeah. Well, I was also taking a lot of gabapentin, but I wasn't really ready. I don't think I was ready to be a counselor at that point. I wasn't ready to be in the field. I was only sober like 3 months before they hired me.
Really? Okay.
So, and I ended up working at the rehab I went to.
Really? That's interesting. 3 months after you left.
Yeah, and almost, I did sort of an informal interview as an inpatient, like in my last week there with the vice president of the company. There was a lot of pressure there to do the thing.
I'm dumbfounded that an institution like that wouldn't allow that.
It was a private company. Not a lot of ethical oversight. It was owned by a couple that was a well-intending couple who wanted to help addicts and alcoholics recover, and they had some personal experiences in their family, and they started this company. They were software engineers and millionaires at that. They started it with good intentions, well, let's create a rehab that's a little different, that might work for other people. So it wasn't 12-step, it wasn't disease-based, it was all choice-based. A lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, that sort of thing. Yeah, so I was there for 8 weeks, and then they had some significant interest in hiring me as a counselor. And about 3 months after that, they were ready for me, and I pretended to be ready. But and I think I did a good job there. By and large, I definitely struggled as time went on. I realized I didn't really change anything. I literally had gotten sober. That was it. I was abstinent. And to me, that was recovery because I didn't know any different. I never tried 12-step. I was pretty anti-12-step because I didn't really want to think I had a disease. That terrified me. I thought, I don't know, I was hoping that what they were telling me was true, that as long as I made better choices, all this stuff would go away. And not so much. It wasn't quite like that.
As we all find out at one point or another, yeah, if you're just trying to stop using drugs and don't work on anything else,
Yeah.
I don't see that successful very often anyway. And if it is successful, that person is still a miserable human being.
Yeah, and I deep down was still miserable. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know why I was so unhappy. You know, life turned around really quickly for my family when I got the job there. We were renting this brand new house. It was beautiful. We were living in this small little idyllic town, and I had a job I really liked. I loved my coworkers, although they had been my counselors, so there was some weird dual relationships there. Like, they knew my story pretty intensely. And my boss was my primary counselor. So, like, it was the whole thing. So when I started to struggle, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to turn to. You know, I didn't have a real open relationship with my wife about my using patterns. Like, it was always her discovery. I didn't come to her generally with, like, I'm struggling type thing. Because I didn't want anybody to think I was struggling. I wanted to be cured. And I wanted everybody to think I was cured, so everybody would get off my back, you know, and I could kind of do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that mostly included, like, I want to regulate my own, like, self-medicating schedule. Because I still really hadn't figured out what it meant to be in recovery. I didn't have any clue. So when I fell apart and ended up going back to the same things I'd done before, well, I wasn't surprised. I feel like everybody else was, like, shocked. and as any good addict or alcoholic, I denied it. In fact, I don't think I've ever even told my wife the truth. Like, we've never sat down and had that conversation. Like, I blamed it on everything else. And I think part of her believed it. Part of her was like, yeah, right. Especially when she found this pile of Klonopin in my car, and she's like, "What's this all about?" And I'm like, "That's for emergencies." You know, you come up with the bullshit that you come up with, you know, and it's ridiculous.
Most of it is, yeah.
I mean, it's like, but you're like, well, maybe there's like a 1 in a million chance they'll buy it, and that's like, you're gonna go with that.
I'm gonna go with that 1 in a million.
That's better than the truth.
Oh my god! At least for me, anyway, it was showing any kind of like weakness. It was a combination of being so prideful.
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely.
Not wanting to show any kind of weakness is really what it was. Even though everybody around you could see how weak you really are.
Yeah, when you're showing up to work as a counselor and you're loaded, like, that's pretty weak.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people, when I got accused a few times, I would be like, "What, me?" And I figured out a way to rig the system with, like, the saliva tests and things. Like, I figured out how to do everything that you could do to, like, get around the positive tests and things. Mm-hmm. And I pretty much did whatever I could to keep my own, like, personal, whatever was left of any sort of, like, self-worth I had left, was like, that was what I was going to safeguard. And for some reason, continuing to deny and lie, and that was, like, the ass backwards way of preserving whatever was left of my own integrity, which sounds totally backwards to most people, but, like, that's the frame of mind you're in when you're in the disease state. Everything that makes sense in your brain, obviously to normal, healthy, sober people, looks complete. And I see it now, and I've had some, friends that are struggling right now, and I see them doing and saying the same things I did. And from when I'm long enough removed from it now that I have an instant where I forget. Like, I get frustrated. And I just recently had a friend who ended up back in the hospital, and my first reaction was, like, somewhat probably what, my family experienced, which is like, what the like, why are you doing this thing? Idiot. Like, but then, I had to step back and be like, this is what it is. It's a disease, and certainly there were some poor choices made involved with that, but, like, who am I to be, like, judgmental of him having to go through the process again? Some people, that's just what it is.
Yeah, we had a guy in the Oxford house we had to kick out recently, and it was just so funny. First, he hands us, we were like, all right, dude, you gotta talk. There's some dude pounding on the door here saying you owed him money, you just ripped him off.
Yeah, that's a bad sign.
So immediately it's like, all right, what's going on? Just take a talk, dude. The night before, he was sitting out on the couch with me. I was watching basketball while I was eating dinner. And he's asking me the same questions over and over again. Like, he completely is just absent-minded. I'm like, all right, what the fuck's going on? He's nodding out.
Yeah.
So next day, we're like, all right, dude, you're going to have to take this tox. He's like, no, look I just got back from outpatient. I took one. Here's a sheet. So he's got this sheet and it shows, it has, like, stuff crossed off and labeled was a supervised no, but he crossed it out and highlighted yes with the highlighter. Like, he's like, no, the counselor did that. And
right.
I'm like, it was just bad. And I'm like, dude, come on. We know how it is.
We've all done that same thing.
Yeah, I've done it. Like, I know. Like, he pits dirty for 3 things. Benzos, coke, and dope. And I'm like, he's like, what? I'm like, Brian, come on, bro. It's all right, dude. We get it.
But I remember having that what reaction, like, Because, there's part of you that's like, maybe I'll fool everyone again.
Maybe everybody will believe me.
And but it's not out of a state of like trying to like, I don't know, you're not trying to be a shit person. It's just
no,
like,
you just
you're
don't
just trying
know
to survive.
Yeah, I actually wrote this quote down this morning, which is funny. It came up. It says, "You can't change somebody who does not see an issue with their actions. You can only change how you react to them."
It's true.
And it's, when people are doing things like they don't know, they don't even realize it.
Yeah.
As obvious it is to me that you're doing something stupid and ridiculous, that person himself or herself does not realize it.
Right, and even if there is some realization, that for me the overriding motivation of trying to avoid withdrawal or trying to avoid having these to do these things like actually get better, which terrified me. I mean, really, I don't think people understand the level of fear involved with staying in the active addiction. It's literally, for me, it was the fear of going through withdrawal for benzos especially was so much more real and pertinent to me than it was if everyone in my life had just said, screw you, and we're like literally walking away. Like, I'd be like, fine, but get me some pills while you're out. Like
before you leave, can I just borrow $10?
Right, I need to because until you can feel that level of even feeling human again, it's like I'm not going to be able to deal with anything that you're talking about until I can at least think straight. Like, that was my thing. It's like, until I can even feel like I'm not going to like die any second, like I'm not going to entertain your, and that sounds horrible, but it's like, I'm not going to even deal with the things that you're telling me or the realities that are coming, the sky's falling. Like, I don't care. Like,
yeah, I mean, just that's the first major step, is just getting through that first week or 30 days, depending on what you're coming off of withdrawal itself.
And then you don't, like, it's like, before that process happens and you actually clear up, it's like you truly don't know what you don't know. Like, you don't know where you're, like, how you're going to feel once you go through that process. And what was so stunning for me about this process this time, 14 months in a few days, is like that you realize, like, even your first few days of getting clean, like in the hospital for me, even when the drugs are out of your system, your perception is so different than how it's going to be in 2 weeks, in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year. That's the stunning part for me, is that, like, I'm glad I didn't listen to that little inner voice even like 6 months ago.
I find it pop up like all the time, just randomly, and it's very quiet now. It's very subtle. It's something I'm very aware of at this point, and I can really just recognize it before anything sinks in. But the other day I was driving to drop off this application for this job, and I took the 33, went down, whatever. Basically, for people who are listening and don't know Buffalo, I went through downtown to get over to Main Street. And the Fruit Belt is where I bought my dope almost all the time. But it was just that voice came in my head. I had, $80 in cash in my pocket? Hey, you could go get dope right now. And I started laughing because I've recognized it now, and I've become very hyper aware of that voice. But I was just like, it's crazy. I think you're like a week before me as far as clean time, and I'm coming up on 14 months as well, and still 14 months of not doing any drugs, and that voice was just subtle. Just for majority of people, it's when you stop becoming aware of that voice, is that all of a sudden you wake up in a friggin' 3-day binge, and you're back at square one again.
Right. And I don't know that I hear the voice that's telling me to use anymore. I hear, what I hear from my inner, like, the self-talk is just about other decisions in life. Like, what am I going to do as far as this job goes? What am I going to do as far as, like, what I'm going to do today? Like, how I'm going to spend my money, how I'm going to allocate my energy and all that stuff. For me, that's where the learning is still happening. Like, very rarely do I feel like, oh yeah, I'd like to go, get some Klonopin or something. I mean, occasionally it's like, it would be nice to have this because I feel like crap right now and I don't want to deal with this emotion. But by and large, for me, like, the changing thoughts have to do with, like, how to, like, live life now and how to be, like, a normal human, and I'm realizing, the more time I spend around people who are healthy, normal people, I'm it's funny how you start realizing how your thoughts are so different than theirs. But,
oh my gosh, yes.
But, like, I think for people in early sobriety, the one thing I really want to emphasize is, like, don't necessarily trust everything you think, feel, and are right now, because it's going to change. If you stay sober and you work on recovery, like, it's going to change. The way you view things in 6 months from now, it's going to be different than how you view them.
Yeah, and I think it's just in the state of hyperspeed for addicts, but I think you can say that for any human being, really.
Right. Yeah. And
I
I
mean,
think in recovery though, it is. Yeah. There's that.
it's like a hyperspeed. Like it happens like
Yeah.
quick and fast and hard, and because you're coming from the state of mind that is just totally left field, and now you're totally in right field, and yeah, shit is happening like crazy.
Yeah, I think I feel like recovery is akin, like the first year for me is akin to what it would be like to move to a foreign country where you don't know the language.
That's
like
a great analogy.
Like you don't know anybody, and you don't know the culture. I mean, you might have some idea of the culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, but like for me, I was in a fuzzy state for 13, 14 years. So coming back into society is like being in a different country. It's like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Well, and then literally I'm in a different place than I used to be too. So, but yeah, I would imagine like anybody who's ever traveled abroad and tried to live in a different location, it's like there are certain things you become so immersed with right away, but there's other things that are just a disconnect for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think culture is one of those big things. Also, like, I don't know, just finding your place. I think in recovery, finding your place in the world is...
Which I think is a huge part of staying clean, is being able to find that place, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so many people will, have these grandiose ideas of what they want to be and what they would love to do the rest of their lives. But I always use my good buddy Matt, for example, is he's become an electrician. He got a internship now being an apprentice electrician, and he's loving it. And it's just something simple. And he's like, I've never felt this way about a job, and just finding your niche in the world and what it is you want to be doing.
Yeah, career. I mean, because I don't know. For me, holding a job, finding a job, being employed, being a good employee, those are some of the biggest struggles when I was using. So now, I
don't think you're alone in that.
Right. Yeah. So when you come out and you're like, okay, I have to do the thing, I have to be like a normal worker bee. It's like, what the heck am I good at? Like, even if you've gone to college, like I have, even if you have skill sets, it's like, I don't know, for me, my self-esteem was so tarnished. And like my ability to do anything was like, okay, I don't know if I can even go to the grocery store and like pick out, like, I don't know if I can meal plan. Like that sounds like a big deal. Like that's a lot of commitment for me. The job, finding the career in the job thing. Like, I mean, I never thought I'd go back into counseling, and that's what I'm doing. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be associated with it. I had a lot of negative feelings about it, but that was kind of something that happened to me in general while in addiction. Was anything that I felt rejected from, I was like, well, screw that. I want no part of that moving forward. And the counseling field was one of those things. So I'm glad to be doing it again. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Well, I recently got hired by a local agency to be a counselor associate, which I'll be working at it's like I don't know if you want to call it a halfway house. It's here in Buffalo. It's in general for men who don't have anywhere else to go,
okay,
but are in the next stage after generally
a longer term
treatment. So it's a place where they have an outpatient counselor, but they also have an in-house counselor. So I'll be doing that. I'm going to try to bring recovery coaching there too. That's something they're interested in doing.
Okay.
And they're going to be changing the paradigm of their program. They're going to be making it a situation where when guys come in the door, they're basically, in order to stay there, they have to get a job. So that's a huge shift from what they've been doing before. It's going to be either go to school or get a job, and we're going to help you do these things. So it's the idea, it's like people, I don't know, who end up in these agencies and these systems. I don't know, the big problem I think that they found is that people have a hard time getting out. Like, they don't know how to get out. Like, how do I ever escape this without having, like, gainful employment? How do I, and then it's like, what exactly are you living for? There's only so much to do in a day that has to do with, like, going to meetings, going to outpatient. It's like, what, a lot of these places, I've had experience with friends there, and, like, people literally, like, nap all day.
Oh my gosh, it's all over the place.
Or they eat all day. It's like nothing's really happening in their lives. So it's like, what really do they have? What are they developing to actually stay sober for? And a lot of them, the boredom's a huge thing.
That's huge.
And
I've seen that take a lot of people down, just complacency and laying around in bed all day. And
yeah, when you're not living a normal life, when you're not, and I'm normal, by normal I mean going to a job, by having friends at work, having a life that's like you can get up for in the morning, even if they don't like love your job, just the idea that you're contributing.
Or you can just do what I did, and I'm just creating my own job.
I mean, and that's awesome, but most people
making this shit up.
But most people don't have that drive. Like you have a really strong like internal motivation to do this. Like most people be like, yeah, I'd love to do a podcast, and that's like the practicality of actually doing it.
Oh, but I was telling that to somebody the other day. I think it was actually Garrett. I just did a podcast with him and his girlfriend, and I was saying, so many people think it's just hit record and talking to some microphones.
Right.
It's like, yeah, no, it's a little more than that.
Yeah.
And not to mention, like right now, I went down with somebody at Buff State yesterday, and they're helping me develop a business plan, and then I got to go do this presentation in front of Access VR to try to get money from them. And either way, it's like slowly becoming an actual business where I'll be like offering recovery coaching and doing presentations and stuff. But
for people who are a little bit maybe less driven,
it is, yeah. Somebody did. My buddy Matt messaged me today. He was like, "Dude, I am like jealous of the drive you've had," and I was like, "I don't know what it was. Just when I was laying in jail, it just happened."
Yeah.
I was like, I can't go back to a normal job. I need to do something I love to do and that I don't have to worry about even retiring from because I love doing it so much. It's not even a job anymore. And not to say there's not things I don't like about doing this, like networking and Facebook stuff, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things I don't like about this.
There's a lot of peopling involved with this.
Yes, there is. There definitely is. But I mean, I'm loving every second of it. But I also have had to deal with that, like find that balance in myself, because there's times where I'm not doing enough no matter how much I do, or it's not good enough, and I have to really just stay on top of that self-talk of take a break. It's okay.
Our level of perfectionism in something like this can drive you nuts.
You can, yeah. You really need to learn and how to use it, because it's a great tool to always help you improve and to learn more. But when you let it take over, it used to make me give up on everything. And just like, I'm not good enough, why bother?
Yep. Yeah, I've been there too. Like, I've just recently started to, because I did a lot of artwork growing up, and I've done a lot of paintings, drawings. I've sold quite a bit.
You play music too, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yep. So in terms of being artistic in sobriety, it's like that perfectionism piece can like really, really get you.
It can, yeah.
But what I've realized is like, it's so much more fun doing it sober. Like, I've looked back at a lot of the artwork I did, over the past 10 years. And while some of it I'm proud of, most of it I look back and I'm like, whoa. Some of it, like, people argue, oh, you can be more creative when you're, having these.
That was funny, yeah.
I don't know, man.
I went through that, a lot of thinking of that at the Village, because obviously I was playing music all the time. Because I could have my guitar there. And I wrote more songs, more beautiful songs than I've ever completed, written before. And I used to have that mindset, like, you have to be high. I have to, even just smoking weed, like, oh, I gotta hit the bong a couple times so I can fucking play and write. And it's really, I've found it to not be true whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently started to write some songs again too, and I play guitar, piano, sing. I love composing, but I spent probably the majority of the past 12 years being like, telling everybody around me, like, I've got writer's block. I can't do this. Just because it's like, I would try to create something, and like, when you're half in the bag all the time, and you're like, it's just, even if you have these like supposed like epiphany moments, I would record them. And I've gone back and listened to them
when you're
it's
not.
Like, wow. So I'm really enjoying getting back into writing lyrics and writing songs. And I've got, some friends of mine who are, I'm trying to get together to do a band, but like, all these things are now possible, which is great. It's like, but the creativity thing, like, to me, being sober, I'm much more creative sober. Like, it's like, I get where people come from with like hallucinogenics and dissociatives, and like, yeah, you can unlock certain parts of your brain that, like,
absolutely
can create connections that you may not be able to normally create. But like, I don't need that. I don't know. Like, I
don't think anybody needs them.
Right. I mean, I used to write some lyrics while trying some like dissociative stuff. The robo tripping,
Jesus Christ!
Like,
that's one thing I can say I've never done. The robo tripping.
That's a whole thing. Like, but like, yeah, I go back and read some of that stuff, and it's profound, but it's like, man, not worth it. Ooh. Like, not worth it at all.
Was this worth ruining my life over?
Right. Oh my gosh. It's just
gosh.
The things you do are so bizarre. No, I'm, and also just doing like, I really like doing pencil drawings that are like realistic looking, so people think they're photographs.
That's awesome.
Now that I've gotten to the point where I can actually do detail again. Yeah, doing like detailed drawings. I just did one for my daughter, and I was like, wow, this is actually easy to do sober. Like, I realized I hadn't done this like sober since college probably, and I'm working on something else now for a friend, but it's been really enjoyable. So like, yeah, I'm finding that all the things that I didn't think would be necessarily enjoyable sober,
they're awesome.
Yeah. And photography, like, I'm not great at it, but I love being a part of a group on Facebook that my friend Corey started called Buffalo, etc.
Oh,
Some
nice.
fantastic photographers on there, and I'm gonna go around with a couple of the people who are in the group and kind of learn what they do. One of the gals on there she's got to be a professional. I don't know her real well, but like you go on there.
What's
I think
it called?
Buffalo, etc. It's literally Buffalo, etc.
Oh, okay.
But some of the talent on there is just phenomenal. And Corey, who's my good friend, he's become extremely good at it. In fact, he's got a website where he sells his prints now. So,
Well, give him a shout out. What's the website?
Corey Hill is the guy, and it's CoreyJamesHill.com/Buffalo-etc. And that's where you can order some of Corey's work. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, since we're giving shout outs to photographers, I don't know when's the last time you've been on my website. But
I don't know.
this guy that I worked with at a restaurant, he does a lot of just photography for fun around Buffalo, but he's done like all the grain elevators.
Oh, okay.
And he's got so many awesome photos.
I don't think I've ever been on your site on a desktop.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a desktop
I have a
access
whole
right now, so like I think I've seen I briefly saw the smartphone version, whatever you call it.
Yeah, so you go photos by Daniel Drought, Draudt, and I gave a whole little shout out to him because he said, yeah, use any of my pictures you want.
Oh, those are great.
And so I have them all over on my site, man. Except I think that's the only page I don't is the podcast page. But
Yeah, I think I saw that and I was wondering if you took them. I was like,
yeah,
dude.
no,
I
have no idea how to take pictures.
So the other person on Buffalo, etc., that is just amazing is Brianna Robinson. She and I are gonna hang out soon, and she said she'd take me around and show me how she does it. Her stuff is just amazing. I mean, it's just
Okay. Yeah, here
she does a lot of, and I don't know like how she does it exactly, but she puts herself in these situations where she's around people and able to like photograph them apparently without them being like think it's super weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's able to do those really great candid shots of people on the street, and she meets them, she engages with them. So I'm really excited to go hang out with her.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like so many, when you just hear photography, you think what is there to really being a good photographer, and then you see even you just start learning a little bit about it. It's like, oh my gosh, how do people take like these? Just you have to have this whole creative mindset. To
and
be
I think
I'm going to take that picture and have it look like this and.
Yeah, and I'll be better versed after I, hang out with her. But I think what I'm gathering that she does, I think there's got to be a lot of engagement with the people that you meet on the street. Like, hey, she gets to know them. Like, she writes little bits about what these people say to her and things like that.
That's cool.
It's a great illustration of what it's like to walk around in Buffalo. She shows the people. Like, that's, sometimes the kind of the weirdos that you meet out there. Sometimes the really, like, unique people. Sometimes just your common persons. So that's been a great thing to be a part of. So my life is really full right now. There's just so much I want to do, and there's so much out there to do. And Buffalo is just a great place to recover. Honestly, like
it is,
I couldn't have imagined being somewhere else. I never wanted to be here, but now that I'm here and I'm experiencing it, and I'm actually like getting used to the city, like it's great.
Yeah, I do. When I came back from living in Florida for 5 years, I really started falling in love with the city. It's got a lot going on. Yeah.
I lived here like 10 years ago and did not feel the same way. But I wasn't sober.
Yep.
And the city the city of Buffalo itself has gotten phenomenally better. I mean, it's
especially if you're talking 10 years ago.
Yeah. When we left 10 years ago, things were not great around here.
Nope. It was struggling.
Honestly pretty depressing. Of course, the economy was horrible. But coming back and like having the experience of being sober, to truly sober and in recovery for the first time ever, yeah, I love Buffalo. I really do. The people, like, yeah, I mean, it's a big city. You got a wide variety of folks, but
Absolutely.
Like the people that
which is not a bad thing.
No,
yeah.
The people that I've met though from all the different walks of life are just like, I always thought that City of Good Neighbors thing was just like a nice little PR campaign. But like there's like no, for real though, like there are good people here, like legit good people. And I grew up on the West Coast where people are not nearly as friendly.
No, not at all. Or down south, really. Unless you get into like the hick redneck areas.
Where then it's a little too friendly.
Where then it's, yeah.
And you're questioning the motives there. No, but like, I remember growing up in Reno and spending a lot of time in San Francisco. It's like you walk around and you don't look at people in the eye. Like if you look people in the eye, there's going to be some sort of confrontation that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Here in Buffalo, it's like literally people will say hi to you and you're like, oh, like I'm still pleasantly surprised by it.
Yeah, my ex-wife, when her parents would come up here to visit because she was born in Fort Lauderdale area. She always said that everybody says hi to you. Like, she said it like a snob, too.
It's almost
like, it was a bad thing. Yeah, that's really annoying, isn't it? When people
Right.
say hello to you.
I hate friendly people.
What the fuck?
It's almost Midwestern in the way, the warmth of the people.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's that East Coast edge, I guess you could say.
There is, definitely, yeah.
But the warmth is cool. And especially in the recovery community, man, that's great. I love it.
It is. So you, do you do 12 steps?
Yeah. Yep. I'm part of one of the fellowships.
Okay.
Yep, I do AA.
Okay.
So, and it's, I found it to be, it's alive here. And there's young people. Not to say age really matters, but like, it was important for me to see that
you want to see people around your age.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was important for me to see that there were people who came from not only like different walks of life, but also were younger and interested in recovering. I witnessed a number of speakers at meetings for my first 6 months that were younger people with sustained sobriety, and they like loved their life. I also gravitated towards the people like in my home group who were not necessarily all young people, but good long sustained sobriety and loving life. Like, that was the impact that changed me, really, was like, in my opinion, towards AA and NA, is that, wow, like, these people actually enjoy their life legit.
There are a lot of good people out there. I tried doing it and doing the sponsor thing, and it became a little too much for me. But there's so much good stuff to get taken from it. There's so many awesome people in it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the thing that has kept me going is the shared experiences. Like, I can sit there and talk about something that I'm currently going through, and there's like 4 or 5 people nodding their heads and being like, yep, me too. And it's like, okay, well, how are you going to deal with this? How did you deal with this? What's your perspective? And
well, that's huge, to not feel alone in your issues. And that's one of the biggest benefits of talking about things, and especially groups like that, is you find people who are nodding their heads. Yeah, I'm going through the same shit.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I think the steps have been helpful. I think they've, for me, changed a lot of things in my life. But it's been the fellowship. It's, it's having friends. It's having people, you can rely on who have that shared experience. It's like a common bond. And I don't know what I would have found it outside of the fellowship. I guess I could have found it in my Oxford house when I was there. I mean, but like, I don't know, like, how do you get out and meet other people that have shared experience? I mean, you do this, so this kind of is
this is what if I didn't do this, I always say, like, one of the biggest things I've noticed, and people are probably sick of me saying this, but one of the biggest things I noticed with relapses and everything was even with people with a lot of time, they just forgot. They forgot everything. Their story, where they came from, how shitty it was. And then they wake up in this freaking 2-week binge and like, how did I get back here?
Right.
And I realized that, I noticed that very quickly. And I came up with this quote, like, I know I got this as long as I know I don't got this. And I say it to myself all the time, at least once a day. Because if I don't do something that's keeping my recovery and me reminded of where I came from, then I'm going to become this overconfident human being who's going to slip and end up right back at square one.
Right.
And so, I mean, this is the number one thing. This Room 9 is what keeps me every day. I have to network, at least get on and network and throw some posts